Among wild mushrooms, one name carried a reputation like a warning label: the death cap, Amanita phalloides. It showed a greenish olive cap, white gills underneath, a skirt-like ring, and a bulbous cup at the base. Those features looked clear on paper, yet in the hand they fooled people. The real danger came later, after a meal. Violent vomiting and diarrhea arrived, fast and brutal, pushing the body into dehydration and fear. Then the trap tightened. Symptoms often faded, and relief felt real. But amatoxins still worked quietly, shutting down liver cells, while the person seemed better. By the time jaundice and confusion appeared, damage had already advanced. Next came the destroying angels: Amanita bisporigera, virosa, ocreata, pure white and almost refined. They carried smooth white caps, white gills, a skirt-like ring, and a sac-like vulva at the base. That clean look hid the same weapon found in death caps: amatoxins. Once eaten, these toxins shut down the body's protein-making machinery, and the most vital organs started failing with little warning. The real trap came from confusion. In lawns and open ground, these white amanitas got mistaken for harmless white field mushrooms. One casual pick, one meal, and the mistake turned irreversible. The deadly webcap appeared ordinary at first glance: a rusty brown mushroom with a dry cap and dull cinnamon gills. Along its stem, faint cobweb-like veil strands lingered like torn threads that once covered it. That web mattered because it marked a cortinarius, a group that hid one of the crueler toxins. In these species, orellanine slipped in quietly. No dramatic warning followed the meal, no immediate collapse. Days later, trouble finally surfaced when it felt too late to connect cause and effect. Orellanine kept working in the background, damaging kidneys bit by bit until urine output dropped and dialysis became the only bridge to survival. Autumn skullcap, Gallerina marginata, looked like the definition of a little brown mushroom. It stayed small, with a tan to brown cap and tight gills, and it favoured rotting wood. A faint ring zone hinted at trouble. That hint proved real. This unremarkable mushroom carried amatoxins, the same class of poisons that hit the liver hard and late. The danger grew because it blended into the background of other small brown species people barely noticed. The worst trap came at harvest time. Autumn skullcap often got taken for edible honey mushrooms, especially when both appeared on wood in clusters. One wrong pick looked harmless in the basket, then turned a meal into a lethal gamble. Spring brought a mushroom that looked almost unreal: the false morel, Gyrometra esculenta. Its cap rose in reddish-brown folds and lobes, like a wrinkled brain. It showed up early when people looked for the first wild meals. That shape fooled foragers into thinking it belonged near true morels. But the danger sat inside its chemistry. Gyrometrin broke down in the body and turned into monomethylhydrazine, a compound that attacked fast and without mercy. The result could spiral from nausea into seizures, while the liver took a separate hit. Red blood cells could rupture too, a process called hemolysis. Even cooking failed to guarantee safety, because the toxin could still survive. The deadly dappling looked harmless at first glance. It stayed small, like a miniature parasol with a scaly cap and neat white gills underneath. People saw something delicate and assumed it stayed gentle, but size never matched danger. Lepiota brunoincarnata and its close relatives slipped into lawns, garden beds, and woodchip paths, right where casual picking happened. Their little parasol shape repeated a familiar, safe-looking pattern. The shock came with the chemistry. These tiny Lepiota also carried amatoxins, the same kind of slow-acting killers found in far larger mushrooms. A small serving could prove fatal, and the body paid the price too late. The fool's mushroom, Amanita verna appeared in spring as a clean white amanita with white gills, a skirt-like ring on the stem, and a swollen base wrapped in a cup-like vulva. It looked simple. It never was. Its danger came from familiarity. It shared the same classic warning parts as the worst amanitas, but it showed up when people hunted early food. Whitecaps in fresh growth got read as harmless, even promising. Seasonal timing became the trap. After winter, caution softened, baskets filled faster, and a spring white mushroom got treated like a safe early edible. That mistake carried amatoxins, and the body paid later, not immediately. Chapter 8 turned to mushrooms that looked almost harmless. The deadly fiber cap, Inocybe erubescens, stayed small and plain, with a dry, fibrous cap that sometimes bruised red. Similar Inocybe and Clitocybe carried the same threat. This danger came from muscarine, a toxin that hit fast and hard. The body shifted into overdrive, as if every gland got switched on at once. Sweat poured, saliva ran, and the pupils tightened to tiny pinpoints. Then breathing started to fail. The chest wheezed and flooded with secretions, while the heart rate slowed into a risky drop. It became a cholinergic crisis, not a slow mystery. Minutes mattered, and the wrong bite escalated quickly. Chapter 9 stayed with the small brown mushrooms that filled baskets without anyone noticing. Gallerina and Foliotina types looked harmless, tan to caramel caps, thin stems, sometimes a faint ring zone, and they blended easily into mixed collections. The trap came from similarity, not size. In a handful of little browns, gill colour and cap texture shifted with age and moisture, and the same patch held multiple species. A forager sorted fast, and the funeral bell lookalike slipped through. Then the new danger landed. One toxic specimen did not stay separate. Once chopped and cooked with edible picks, its poison spread through the whole meal. Hours passed quietly. Symptoms lagged and delayed organ failure arrived after help felt least urgent. Foraging had surged into the mainstream, and phones had turned every trail into a classroom. Quick videos promised simple ID hacks, cap colour, a snap test, a single look at gills. That confidence often travelled faster than caution. But the old pattern still played out. Early stomach cramps and vomiting eased, and people believed the danger had passed. Meanwhile, toxins kept working in silence, and by the time weakness and jaundice arrived, the clock had already run. Deadly mushrooms stayed common on every continent where people gathered wild food, and lookalikes stayed convincing. The only safe rule had remained blunt: verified identification by real expertise, or no wild mushrooms at all. Treatment often arrived too late.